YouTube, how the duck you doing? Delfino here. What I got for you today is another masterclass video. It's going to be a position guide on the new map ARKKAO. Look, I probably said that wrong, don't hurt me. And if this is your first time watching one of these videos, I'm going to be talking about both the attack side and the defense side, what areas of the map you should be prioritizing, looking at some pro play examples, and much more. And while you're at it, do me a favor, if you're new here or find yourself coming back on the regular and you aren't already subscribed yet, why not? It's completely free and, well, you're coming back anyways. It's quite literally the best way to help out the channel. But without further ado, I hope you sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Now, before we dive into attacking the first point, I want to quickly say that this map, from a strategic standpoint, is probably one of the more defender-sided maps that the game has to offer. And I say this because, in my opinion, most convoy maps should be relatively even for both attackers and defenders, should be, relatively of the same sight lines and pieces of cover, but unfortunately in this map, that's really not the case. It leans a lot more into the defender side, so that basically means as an attacker, you're going to have to be playing for a lot more off angles, and you're pretty much going to be having to out macro the defenders as best as possible to really get that win in. But now let's talk about what you actually came for, attacking on the first point. So when it comes to attacking the first point of this map, the biggest priority is this spot here. This is what I call, and a lot of people call it, the God spot. This gives you an advantage over this choke here. This is a very crucial strategic spot, so maintaining control of this is very key on the attacking side. Now, most of the time, defensive teams are set up here on this, catwalk bridge, whatever you want to call it. Usually prioritizing this spot, but I would say the defenders should be sitting up here if you truly want to win the game. But the biggest things is once you push them off of this first initial area, what you're going to be wanting to do is, again, let me take a step back real quick. When you're trying to pressure these guys off here, you can take the off angle on this left-hand side to pressure them off as well. Now, what you're wanting to be doing is actually taking this TP. So the yellow TP on the attacker side comes to this quote-unquote God spot. And it just gives you an amazing line of sight, so you can essentially hold this the entire time. This also goes for the defender side. You can also TP onto the spot from over there. But as long as you hold this spot relatively, you should never be able to lose this little choke. Some other things to consider is that this TP on the ground here will TP you up behind. So if you are holding on the lower ground, you're getting pressured a lot. You're about to get eliminated, you're about to be sent back to the respawn screen. All you have to do is TP and quickly escape, heal up, whatever you need to do. Something to also know is that there's a health pack behind this box, but not on this box. Instead of this box, it's actually going to be inside of this little room. Now, another thing to mention is that if the enemy team is holding up on this upper side at the very beginning, there's two ways you can go through. The first way is by, of course, you can go out the right spawn door through here, where there's another health pack. Go through here, then you go down, which people still don't realize. You come down here, and you're behind them at this first point area. You can also break this wall for another transition or a rotate. This is something you can do. A lot of people don't take use of or take advantage of yet. But again, your biggest priority, I don't know why I said it like that, but your biggest priority is to control this God spot. You can TP, this green TP takes you here, and you're back. You have a health pack to sustain yourself. Again, most of the time when you are playing this point, if they're holding this high ground, most of the case, what I would like to do if we're playing a more structured team, like you have a proper team, everybody on your team literally takes this portal. You wipe them out of this first point. The cart is slowly pushing, and you just keep maintaining this height, keep pressuring them. Once the cart hits about here, then all of you can jump down on this left side. Of course, watch out for invis or Emma kick or anything like that, but it's all about rotating this God spot. That's how you play this first point from, countlessly failing in different types of scrims. This is quite literally the best spot to be playing for the first point. Most of the time in your solo queue matches, your teammates are going to be probably defending here, not really paying attention. if people start to understand that this TP literally sends you to the best spot in the entire map, then they're probably going to start using it a lot more. So that is something. Now besides that, if you do manage to wipe them and they're holding very well right before the cap point, and you wipe and they're not holding there, they're holding back to be sitting on point, what you can do is after attacking the first point, instead of going through the choke here, I recommend your team to come to the top area and just maintain this height while fighting down. You're going to do a front to back from top to bottom. That means you're coming to the high ground and you're fighting front to back, eliminating everyone you can while maintaining this height, because the height is so crucial in this map. I mean, again, it's super defender sided. These are all essentially defender angles. So if you can kick them off, you can bully and pressure them off of these angles, well, then it should be pretty easy to capture the first point. Of course, this is all easier said than done, but that's something to keep in mind. And just a little bit of refresher, green portals for the defenders take you to the high ground. This middle portal will take you to this mid ground on the defender's side. Now, there is one more portal, and it's this blue portal. This blue portal will take you just straight back to this area. So you can mess around with the portals to being back and forth, but the biggest things to remember, green and the yellow on the attacker's side will send you to this high ground that you're always going to be wanting to maintain, and that's essentially how you can attack the first point. Although it was a little bit scuffed, but in theory, that's how you should be approaching the first point. Going through this choke, this corridor of death, I am against it. I think fighting here is very scary, especially if there's a Penny, there's a Winter Soldier, there's a Wolverine. All those characters hook you into this death alley and you just instantly die. So I would try to prioritize getting a few picks. Once you have that little bit of momentum, the cart's pushing, then TP through, and that's essentially how you can easily capture and maintain control the first point. Now when it comes to defending the first point of RKO, I will say it becomes a little bit harder, especially when the teams understand that you need to take this God spot position that brings you up there. So for defending, it's going to be very reactive. Usually for the most part, starting off on this bridge, understanding where the enemy team is going to be going. Are they taking this far angle on the side, this off angle? Are they going below to this angle here? Or are they taking the TP instantly to get the high ground and be behind you? So we're going to be playing reactively. Holding here, depending on where they're moving, you're going to mirror and move with them. If they're moving to the high ground position or the God portal, there's a couple ways to play it. You could either play here, which is relatively same height, but it is a riskier situation. You could tell your team, everybody go back, take the TP. It's a little bit of a riskier play, but that's something you can do. Or you can do the same thing like I talk about in some of my other maps. Take, for example, Clintar, you can flip the map. If they're taking this high ground here, all of their team, and they're leaving like maybe one tank at the point to push the point, your entire team should push that one tank off of the point, get them eliminated, and then flip the script on them. Then you're playing here. You're only watching for the enemy that's respawning, which is this solo tank, and the enemy is all TP'd on point, so they don't really have angles to shoot onto you. That is one way you can play it. The other way is to literally just hold as best as you can on this location. It's a lot harder to get into the God spot on the defender side. Even though there is the TP here, it's essentially, if you manage to wipe the enemy team when the captured convoy target is here, then you would take the TP to the God spot and just start holding from up there and holding the point. Otherwise, for the majority of the time, you will probably be sitting main. We do have to understand that the enemy team, just as you prioritize this God spot, the attacking team is also going to be prioritizing this spot. They're going to be taking the TP, trying to go for a pick. The second they get a pick, they're jumping down and pressuring you. So these are things you have to be looking out for. Of course, you should always be looking out for this one underground room, especially when there's a Wolverine on the other team. I will always sit here looking if an enemy is coming this way, let my team know, and they can rotate down accordingly. Otherwise, you will be holding up top. It's very hard to get, your team to rotate in solo queue or, just ranked matches or public matches to get to that spot. So most of the time, you're going to be, like I said, sitting this bridge and just holding as best as you can. But once the cart gets to here, I will say the biggest obstacles or things you have to be looking out for is essentially you have 3 different chokes. You have 1, 2, and 3. You could say 4 if they take the TP, but people don't really take the TP in public matches. You don't realize the power of that. But it's essentially these 3 chokes to be looking out for. So what I like to do is have someone sitting up on top. And you do have to be aware of that little rotate hole there. You have someone sitting up top, whether it's a Hawkeye, Punisher turret, Widow, Hela, anybody. That's a great angle. What I will say is that I see a lot of people do is that if you're playing a solo Hela and they on the defense side and they take this TP for an off angle into the enemy, this is a terrible spot to do by yourself. Because if you get picked, it's a snowball. I would really never recommend doing this, even though you're trying to get that one pick. It's just you have so much room, so much, stuff to worry about to try to get back to the rest of your team for help or assistance. It's just way too far because this one opening pick could be the end, essentially. So what I would try to do is play with the team at this spot, because I feel what makes this map so defender-sided is that it's hard to get the first pick or elimination on the enemy on the defending side, because there's so many factors you have to worry about. So again, when the convoy's here, just position yourself here at this area. Your tanks here, probably your DPS sitting up top, maybe having 1 tank up here as well, like your off tank, your Emma, I guess, for example, your Thing, an off tank, Thor, Venom, whatever. Having your Mag, Doctor Strange sit below with your off tank up here, then having your DPS followed up, just so that the enemy, if they're trying to take the high ground, you still have pressure to challenge them so they don't get the high ground in space for free, essentially. I mean, for the most part, that's really all there is to defending the map. It's just knowing how to play your angles. None of these pillars or anything are destructible, so you don't have to worry about random areas that the enemies can be coming through. Again, it's just 4 areas, 1, 2, the TP on the right, and then the health pack at the bottom, and that's essentially how you hold the first point. Now, when it comes to defending the second point, I think the second point is a relatively long point to capture, even though I think it's the same amount of time or same amount of space on other maps. It just feels so long because of the long coreway. So the second point, after capturing it, the wall drops, card starts here, and it goes all the way, following the line up to here, which feels like an eternity because this area is so open in the front. I think after the enemy team captures the first point, you do not want to stagger whatsoever. What you're going to be wanting to do is win the fight in the neutral, and if you don't know what the neutral is, it's just poking and prodding at each other, getting picks, pushing them back. Once you have that, man advantage or they're pushed back, I feel that you really need to take an offensive posture, whether it's sitting up here and trying to hold them and contain them at their spawn, because when you're sitting up here, there's only a couple areas the enemies can go through. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are the 4 areas you have to be looking at if you're holding up top, and I think having this aggro space is very important, because the second that you lose the line of sight here and you're stuck holding here, the enemies basically have a ton of free room and free space all the way about to this corner, and you can't really peek them if you don't have this high ground space. So I think maintaining an aggressive posture up top is a very crucial aspect of defending the second point extremely well. Some other key notes is that this wall is breakable, so this is an angle, whether it's Hela's, Punishers, Widows, whoever off angles, this is a position for attacking or defending that you can take if you want to go around. Usually this is mainly for attackers, that's what it feels like, that's what it's kind of made for, but it's something defenders could use as well if you're going for a flank. But the biggest thing is fighting in the neutral here is probably the biggest thing. Maintaining the aggressive posture on the top. This area can be useful, so maybe having 1 off tank up here is a good idea, because You have a couple ways that enemies can come up from this side, up top with the bounce pad right below, or they can go through this side by breaking the walls, both sets of walls here, and two, like that. So this is two areas you can go through for the attackers, something to be aware of if you're a defender. It's pretty easy to get up here. Pretty much every single character can get up this little area, with the few exceptions of a couple strategists. For the most part, everybody else can get up here. You can destroy this wall. This is good when you're defending, and that wall is also a possibility to destroy if you're defending, because if you destroy this wall, you could have a person sitting here, and if they're trying to peek over the ledge, you can see them early if they're trying to rotate through this narrow corridor. Something to be useful. I say that the second point is a lot more about information than anything else. Once you have a good read of where the enemies are going, you can easily set yourself up to, absorb the attack very easily. Some key areas again to be mindful of is enemies can go through this right little side over here. There's a jump pad that takes you up, and you can go all the way through. There's a health pack, and then this is towards the second point spawn for the defenders, so you have to be aware of this potential flank route, whether it's a Hela, a Psylocke, no more, if even as well. I will say a majority of the time your vanguards sitting here have at least one off tank on this right side to know if they're trying to go on top or anything like that. And again, as it is a poke meta, you're just going to be poking the enemies down, whittling them down from a distance. It's very hit or miss, I would say. Again, it's all about communication and coordination when it comes to the second point. Besides that, there's not a lot for the defenders in terms of strategy. It's just all about absorbing and getting a read on what the attackers are going to be doing. For the most part, what I've seen is that the attackers will, put one enemy or one person on the payload, so it starts auto pushing or pushing, and then sending the rest of their team up top and taking the space as quickly as possible, forcing the defenders back at their spawn, trying to get as many staggers, because again, this point can be really difficult for the attackers to attack from. So they're gonna do their best to try to stagger you, try to take the space as fast as possible, maybe having one person on the payload while literally 5 people are up front holding everybody back. Even though it'll be a 5v6 engagement and the attackers will be at a disadvantage, that's kind of the strategy when it comes to this. You want to maintain the space for as long as possible to keep the cart pushing for as long as possible. And to counter that, it's basically try not to get staggered on the second point as the defender, try to regroup, try to stabilize, get everybody healthy for engaging, because if you can win that 5v6 in a neutral, you can easily take that aggressive posture and hold relatively long. And that's essentially how you hold the second point as a defender. Now let's talk about attacking the second point of this map. Now I briefly mentioned it in the defender side of what to kind of do as an attacker, but again, I'll give you a little bit of a refresher. So for the most part, after capturing the point, you want to do your best to push up and grab space, whether it's going up here, taking all of the space up to the defender spawn on the right or on the left side. That's going to be one of your better options to attack the second point. Is you need to take the space, you need to take the initiative as fast as possible, because it's going to be hard to push through this corridor as it's very open. Not a lot of area to work with, not a lot of room to really push around and maneuver. So maintaining the height and the space as quickly as possible is going to be one of your first priorities. Now, if you're playing a Hela or some type of off-angle hero, one instance you can do is after getting the first point, of course, coming up on this top right, especially if you're playing Hela, this is a great spot, destroying this wall. From there, you have a couple angles to work with. You have this angle. If you third person peek like this, you can play with. You can also be on this side as well and do the same exact thing, but that's an option you have. You have a health pack back here to kind of self-sustain yourself, so you don't necessarily need a strategist with you to perform or sit at this off angle as Hela or a Black Widow, anything like that. Again, because you have that health pack over there, but it does give you a lot of line of sight to where enemies could be positioning themselves. Most of the time, you're going to have the enemy duelist or strategist setting up on this high ground with the tanks a little bit lower, so their shields can't necessarily block hella shots from this angle. So that's something to be aware of, that if you're playing against a hella on the defender side, if the roles are flipped, maybe you might want to have a vanguard a little bit further back so that they can shield, so that the hella doesn't have a good LOS on the rest of your team. Some other things to consider is that if the enemies push through, they can easily go through this right side. You can take this jump pad up. You have two areas here for off angles. You could destroy this wall too. This is a super hypothetical scenario. If the defenders are holding the high ground advantage onto literally your spawn, you could be playing a hella again. For example, a flanking duelist. Come to here, this wall is destroyed, and you can maybe get a cheeky pick on them while they're trying to hold you aggressively, and that can be your way to break into the defense. Now, besides that, you can keep using this area to keep pushing through on these side hallways that literally goes straight to their spawn. Again, this point is relatively hard for the attacking side, mainly due to the fact that you have this long hallway. If you can just maintain this height on the left side or on the right side, and just keep pressuring and staggering the defenders, in theory, you could easily steamroll a victory. Of course, that comes with a lot of coordination, which in solo queue lacks quite a bit, but those are some things to consider. You also have this room on the left, I guess, from the attacker spawn. When you come through, either way or either breakable way, you come through, you have this red light room, you have a health pack. You can jump up here with pretty much every single character in the game, with the exception of strategists and so on. You can easily come up here and push through the defenders like so. I mean, for the most part, for attacking the second point, the biggest thing is to consider taking the space as quickly as possible is your best friend. This is the biggest thing that's stopping you from taking the second point. I mean, that's pretty much how to attack the second point. It's pretty straightforward. It's just, you need to take the initiative. You need to take the space. Because, like I say in all of my other videos, the more space you have, the harder it is for the enemies to do anything, whether it's healing, dealing damage, or the tanks being able to walk up. That's probably your best friend. Now, this is going to carry momentum into the third point, especially if you get staggers or picks. So it's just like the second point for attacking. After getting picks and staggers, I literally want you and your team, like 4 of you, to run all the way up here, literally to the defender spawn, and just hold them at their spawn. Because this map is so defender sided, the faster you have the space literally locked at their spawn, the easier it is for you to be able to push up the cart. In theory, this allows you to, even if you don't necessarily capture the third point, you will have at least made the cart to a point that's going to be relatively easier to capitalize on. I mean, but if you can't, that's perfectly fine. Some things to consider is that if you jump up top, you can come to this left side over here. That's a great spot. You can do the same exact thing by running straight out of the spawn room for the attacker side. As you can see, spawn rooms over there. Run to the left side, come up. You can even go on this even further outside area. This is the old defender spawn, and come through this health pack. Now, like I was talking about, when it comes to this secondary point, you have this area on the left side you can take. But another thing is, if you destroy this area here, you have a teleporter. This takes you right here. This is the cap point of the third point. So this is an area you can be thinking about to use. This is extremely good for characters that are trying to take off angles, or even a dive character like a Psylocke, a Black Panther. You can easily go through, jump on the enemies. This is also breakable on the other side, like so, where you have a health pack room. This is also breakable. This is also breakable. So these are all areas you can move around in the map with that I think not a lot of people really prioritize. But besides this little teleporter room, if you're attacking, you can also take this left side that literally goes looking at their spawn. Same thing could be said that if you take the high ground on the right side when attacking, you can go through that room on the right, and there's stairs that comes down that leads here. Also a great spot to be off angling and taking pressure, as it is a right hand peek, so you can be playing a Hela or any character very aggressively very well. Again, like I was saying, when it comes to attacking, your main priority is taking the space as quickly as possible. That is the biggest things to be looking out for. But now let's talk on the flip side of defense. So defending. It's going to be hard because you need to take the space back, essentially. The faster you can reclaim your space, the easier it is going to be defending. So let's say the enemy push up and you're defending. You need to do your best to stabilize with the rest of your team, push out together, get a quick wipe on them, or get a pick, make them push back. The second they do that, it's just like the second point like I was talking about, you need to take a offensive, aggressive posture. So basically what we're going to be doing is after, like I said, wiping them, pushing them back from that area up front, you set up on this bridge. This is probably your best option. You can destroy this, and so you have a better line of sight if enemies go through this corridor or this doorway and try to go for a wraparound. By holding this spot, there's only a couple things they can do. The first thing is this left side is matching you, and you'll be able to tell if they're coming up the ramp or not if you're holding this spot. I mean, it's pretty easy to see, or they could be going through the right side and going under and going for a TP flank around. But again, if you're holding essentially this spot here, you can see everything of all the positions they can be going through. Left, right, or down the middle. The longer you hold this, the easier it is going to be for the defender's side. That's why when you're playing attacker, it's very important to take the space as quickly as possible. But literally for the most part, I would say you literally just sit here as the defender. That's really all there is to defending the third point. But if they somehow manage to push you off from, this high ground area, and you get pushed down here, holding here is okay. You could have, your off angle heroes up top, but basically you want to be sitting here for a couple reasons. This spot here sees a line of sight kind of to underground. You can see the high ground, you see this left side, you see the TP as well, you see this doorway, and you can see the right, doorway as well out the corner of your eye, so you have all these angles to be watching out for at the same exact time. So if the cart gets to about here, this is probably what you should be doing, sitting here. Going on this side is a little bit riskier, mainly for the fact that enemies can get to this, or attackers can get to this spot so fast. Because you have that doorway, and they have the bridgeway, and this outer area as well. Literally, you could put an off tank here, have your main tank sitting below, have your off angle DPS up top, having your strategist up there as well is probably your best bet when you're holding this portion of the third point. From there, it's literally how long can you last? Can you last until the time runs out? And that's really about it. When the card's here, I kind of recommend going against holding up here, for the sake that if they do manage to get one pick on you, they're probably going to capture the point because how close it is to capping. As you can see, it's about here and it's almost capped. It's relatively close the second they hit this area. So if the cart's here, then I would position ourselves here. If the cart was maybe under or a little bit more towards the spawn, then I would sit up on top of the bridge. Besides that, this is going to be your best bet. And like I said, from there, how long can you last? You have a health pack there, you have a health pack below here, and that's really all there is to defending the third point of ARKKAO, whatever this map is called. But hopefully this gives you a little bit more insight, a little bit better understanding of what to be looking out for, how to play this map effectively and efficiently. Now, like I mentioned previously, if this video has helped you in any way, shape, or form, do me a favor of hitting that like and subscribe button. It greatly helps out the channel as we're trying to push for the goal of 20,000 subscribers. It's a giant milestone, but I definitely believe we can easily hit it. And if you're trying to hit your daily calories, make sure to check out today's sponsor, Control. And I'm excited to share that this video is sponsored by Control, a delicious protein-packed snack or just a tasty way to fuel your day. Control has you covered. And personally, I'm all about their peanut butter pieces cookies. Seriously, they taste amazing and they fit perfectly into my daily routine. Whether it's a quick shake in the morning or a protein-packed snack in the afternoon, Control's products are both macro-friendly and ridiculously tasty. And now they've got 2 new must-try products. First off is their Monster Cookie, a soft-baked protein cookie loaded with white and milk chocolate chips plus crushed cookie pieces, and it tastes ridiculously amazing. And if you're more of a protein shake friend, they have a Paradise Potion Shake. It's a refreshing mix of sweet coconut and tart pineapple blended into and it's honestly fantastic. Now, Control's snacks and shakes are designed to fuel active lifestyles, whether you're hitting the gym, gaming for hours, or just need a convenient, nutritious option. If you're looking for your next go-to protein shake, check out Control's website using the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. And don't forget, use code DUCK at checkout to save 10% on order. But anyways, back to the video.